Some people say, are you interested in sound or music? And I'm interested in both because I'm making pieces now for instrumentalists, musicians. And I try to make a kind of music that's my own music, that explores the characteristics of sound waves. I'm a composer. I started in music composing traditional music. And then, I'll tell you, in 1960, I was in Venice for the summer, studying in the Benedetto Marcello Conservatory. And I went to hear all the music at the Biennale in that year. Luigi Nono, Canto Sospeso, Stravinsky had a piece. And I went to John Cage and David Tudor's concert at La Fenice. And it was totally different from anything I'd ever heard in my life. And when I got home, I didn't know what to do. But I changed. I knew I couldn't imitate European avant-garde music. It didn't make sense for me. I could do it, but it was not so good, you know. So I spent a year and I didn't compose any music. Then I discovered a brainwave amplifier. And I made a piece for brainwaves and percussion. And that was my first piece of sort of electronic music experiment. The term experimental music, it's not a good term, it's a terrible term. But it's the only word I can think of to describe music that's not coming from history. If you say avant-garde music, it comes from Schoenberg and Bartók and Stravinsky. This is totally different. It's more, it comes from science or phenomenology. I am sitting in a room, the same one you are in now. I am recording the sound of my speaking voice. And I'm going to play it back into the room again and again until the resonant frequencies of the room and I'm sitting in the room. I was a friend to a scientist I knew, and I met him one day, and he said to me simply, he said, I was at an experiment last night in MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. A professor named Bose was designing his loudspeakers, and the way he did it to test them was to recycle sound back through the speaker over and over again to make sure that the speaker was responding. That's all he told me, nothing else. So I thought, well, that's an interesting idea. So I went in a room, had a microphone, a loudspeaker, and I wrote out a text, real-time text, describing what I was doing. And I recorded it on a tape recorder. I went outside the room, took the tape, put it on another tape recorder, played it back into the room through a loudspeaker. Kept recycling my speech through the room. Pretty soon the resonant frequencies of the room dominate. First of all, I used to do it on tape. Record it, play the tape in a concert. Then someone in Germany said, why don't you do it on a tape loop? And now I do it on a laptop. Every room is slightly different. But that's the only difference, is the way it's done. However it works, it's definitive for the piece. All we do is set it up, make sure it works, and then whatever happens, happens. Yeah. And I'm sure I'm going to have a good engineer, so he knows what the piece is, so I cross my fingers. I hope it works. Music for me is, I guess, mostly now any musicians playing together, an ensemble or solo, exploring sound more than exploring emotions or feelings. Sometimes I have to eliminate structure in a certain way to get to the natural characteristics of sound waves, which are very beautiful to me. I'm so happy now that my pieces can be on a concert with classical music. A string quartet can do Mozart, Feldman, Lucier. I enjoy that. Because when I went into music when I was young, I loved classical music. So I'm trying to make my music experimental, but I don't use any crazy techniques. I don't use any noise, extended techniques. I have violin, for example, just playing simple, pure tones.